here in the United States, the only element of gas flowing seems to be the price of the pump. And it is flowing up. And with the Biden administration reversing many of the Trump administration policies, which helped keep prices low, many Americans are starting to wonder just how much they're going to have to pay. So to help us discuss, we bring in Steve Gill, a former USTR official under Bush and Clinton. Thanks for joining me, Steve.
Hey, Scotty.
Okay, so I want to start with these recent moves by Aramco and Saudi Arabia. What does this mean? It's not only about the oil, but it's also about influence, especially when you have Saudi Arabia tying themselves so tightly with China.
Well, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and soon you're talking about real money. And you're exactly right. It's not just the oil. It's also the natural gas that is a part of this function. And while it's like a kid on a teeter-totter. While we're going down, they're going up. And it's not just driving their influence up, it's also driving our gas prices up, which adds to the price of everything at the grocery store. It adds to construction cost. Everything goes up when petroleum costs go up here in the United States, and it's just further exacerbating our ability to come back after the COVID debacle.
Well, and I think a lot of Americans probably just say, we just want to take care of ourselves. If everybody stays in their own region, able to handle their own, we know that he who has the oil has the power. So this is all happening, which I find to be very interesting, under the same time that we're getting this impression that the International Energy Association is actually pushing to open up and to loosen up and increase production in OPEC, while some of the brands like we know of here at home, like Exxon and Shell, are being forced to cut production by the Biden administration. So does this mean, do you think, that the U.S. is going to continue to see sky-high oil prices, considering we're shutting down while other countries are opening up?
Well, and we're going to continue to suffer because it's not just the Keystone pipeline that the Biden administration is shutting off. They're also shutting off exploration and development in Alaska, and Alaskans aren't too happy about that as well. It's also the jobs that are lost when we cut these industries out. Again, we're cutting out the fracking, which also produces oil and gas in places like Colorado, Nevada, and others. It is a devastating impact both in the job, in the economy arena, and what we pay as consumers at the pump and in the grocery store and everywhere else. There's a reason when you go to the Middle East, you see folks in Saudi Arabia driving diamond-encrusted BMWs and Mercedes because oil produces a lot of profit. We're cutting our profits at the same time they're profiting by increasing what they're making all over the world, while we're not only, as you pointed out, cutting our profits, we're cutting our influence in other parts of the world as well.
But here's what gets me, Steve. This keeps coming saying we're going to rely here on renewable energy here in the United States, better for the environment. I get it. I respect that. However, we're far from that point where we can actually be reliable on renewable energy. So if we're not getting our oil from here in the U.S., who are we reliant to? And isn't that sort of giving the power over to other countries when we could keep it here at home?
Well, it's not just the profits, it's their ability to export their oil. And again, we talk a lot about the imbalance of what we purchase here in the United States, what we import versus what we export. Oil and gas is one of those big products that has a big, again, teeter-totter effect on those global economies. And keep in mind, it's not just the oil and gas that we use to put in our vehicles. It's also the petroleum products that are used in the manufacturing process as well. We're making those products more expensive because we're going to have to import when we were a net exporter of oil just a few short months ago. And again, you look at all this push towards the renewable energy, whether it's the wind that we counted on until, of course, that stopped producing the energy we needed in Texas. And when you've got all these electric cars on the road and these demands that we're going to even move more of them more quickly, where do you plug those in? Do we have energy ferries that are going to be replenishing the electricity we need? Or are we going to have to be depending upon more energy production to be able to fuel the electricity we need to fuel, no pun intended, the electric cars? Nobody is thinking this stuff through, or if they are, they're not thinking it through properly.
Well, I have to think there's some pretty smart people, and so these mistakes are not just being completely glanced over. They know that money is going to, that production is going to come from somewhere. The question is, what also comes with it? Now, back here at home, Louisiana just said no to President Biden's pause on the new oil and gas leases. They did this through the justice system, actually, a judge there in Louisiana. Do you think we're going to see more states looking for ways to get around the president's no-go policy?
Yes, I think you're going to see Louisiana. I think you're going to see Alaska continuing to follow suit as well. You're going to look at Colorado, where they don't have a Republican governor, so maybe Polis and the Democrats in Colorado will see their jobs go away because they're not willing to fight for the fracking industry in that state. Look at what's happened in places like West Virginia, and places like Pennsylvania and southeast Ohio, where the oil industry is a part of it, but it's the coal industry that these anti-energy folks in Washington have devastated, and it's turned states like West Virginia pretty doggone red, because people will vote their pocketbooks. They will vote who's putting them out of business eventually. And I think for Republicans, they have to look at places like out west in Nevada, in Arizona, in New Mexico, in Colorado, where the fracking and oil and gas industry is seeing a negative impact, and that could have a political impact in the next 2 to 4 years.
Well, and that's here at home. But, Steve, I want to take this back to where we're talking about more importantly on the international scale. You know, we talk all the time about the Monroe Doctrine, where we need to keep our policy right in our backyard. That also kind of goes with oil and gas. President Biden got a lot of actually pushback in the fact that he said that he was going to let the Nord Stream pipeline construction continue. Do you agree with that? In this case, you know, Trump got involved and got his nose involved. Should we not let countries make their own deals in regards to oil and gas if it does not involve the United States? In fact, we have the ability to do it on our own here at home.
Well, there wouldn't be anything wrong with the pipeline deals that other countries are cutting if we weren't cutting our own throats by stopping our own energy production, stopping our own ability to produce. And it's not just the energy that flows through the pipelines. We haven't built new refineries to take it from oil to gasoline, oil to other products in a long time, because we can't get past some of the environmental regulations that are in place. We're cutting our own economy, we're cutting our own jobs, while we're claiming that we're going to help clean up the environment and that the Green New Deal is going to stop places like India and China and others from continuing to pollute like crazy, when all we're doing is cutting our own economic throats. And again, it doesn't matter what the other countries are doing to benefit themselves, as long as we're making decisions to benefit ourselves, our consumers, and our families.
And what's funny, Steve, those other countries are beefing up right now. America is scaling back, and the other countries, while they're saying they might want to participate, they're actually continuing to grow their economy, something that I think, you know, helps everyone. Thank you, Steve, for joining us.
And don't overlook the national security impact.
Right.
World War II was started because the Japanese had to have oil. So oil is a commodity that has generated wars in the past. We need to make sure that it doesn't again. We've seen it in the Middle East. We saw it in World War II. We are on a precipice of national security, not national economic issues as well.
Well, and that's the other element. We've waged many wars over oil and energy in the past. Unfortunately, we've had lots of battles other countries have seen. And once again, is it really necessary for the U.S. to engage when we have that ability here at home already? Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Scotty.